Hey buddy, it's Peter, and this behind me is the brand new Toyota Tacoma Trailhunter. Now the Trailhunter is an off-road version of this, but there's also the TRD Pro. The TRD Pro is sort of the traditional North American off-roader, and by that I mean it's kind of a Jeep competitor. It's a rock crawler. It does other things and it does other things very well, but this one is an Overlander. Now an Overlander is probably the type of off-roading that many of us do, and of course this one was basically put together with pieces from ARB. ARB is an Australian company, and of course if you're into the off-roading community you know all about ARB. But if you think about driving across Australia, maybe you're not too familiar with Australia, most of Australia is the wilderness. It is out and it is not roads, it is not towns, it is just nothing. It is the outback, and that's what this is basically designed to take on. And if you live here in Canada like I do, there's all kinds of places where this makes sense. So in this review, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about that sort of overlanding type features that are on this. There's a lot of reviews that talk about the engine, talk about the transmission, talk about the performance and that kind of thing. What I'm going to do is help you figure out if those overlanding specific features are something that makes sense for you, even if you're not going across the Australian outback, if you're just using this as a regular everyday truck. So hopefully that makes sense. We're going to do more and more car reviews, truck reviews, that kind of thing on this channel. If any of that appeals to you, make sure you hit the subscribe button. I also have all kinds of motorcycle reviews. We're going to cover motorcycles first, so if you're into motorcycles, you definitely got to subscribe, because nobody's going to film more motorcycles in Canada this year than me. And yeah, that's kind of what we do. All right, let's get going with this review. So before we get going too far, we got to talk about two things. First thing is Fredericton Toyota allows me complete access to their entire vehicle lineup. So if there's a Toyota that you want to see, or if I don't answer the questions that you want about this truck in this video, make sure you let me know in the comments below, because I would be happy to come back to this video, or come back to this vehicle, excuse me, or come back to anything on the lot. There's a number of vehicles here I would like to get to, and I will be getting to them, so want to give thanks to Fredericton Toyota for giving me access. The second thing I'm going to talk about is the iForce Max engine. So all Tacomas use a 2.4 liter engine, a 4-cylinder engine, and they have a turbo, and the Max has a turbo and the hybrid. Now if you think of Toyotas and hybrids, you know, hey, they are very good for efficiency. They've been around for forever. Of course, we know the Prius. Well, pretty much everything Toyota is now a Prius, right? And it uses that same type of technology. What's different on the trucks is the hybrid system here really isn't only about efficiency, it's also about adding a significant amount of power. Now we've learned through things like Tesla that a lot of electric power can be a lot of fun, and that's really the perfect mating of Toyota's technology with a truck like this, because electric torque is instant, trucks need torque. And if you think about a turbo engine, the turbo runs the gas through the exhaust, spins the turbo, and then gets going. That's why you have what's called turbo lag. So what that means is when you give it the gas on any turbo car, there's a delay before that turbo boost kicks in, and then you really feel that power. Now, lots of manufacturers do lots of things to minimize that turbo lag, but you now have the instant torque of an electric motor and a turbo, so what that means is you can really balance that torque throughout the entire rev range. It really does make sense engineering-wise and technologically. You have to drive it to see how much sense it makes in something like this. So that's the extent of what we're going to do, is talk about the engine. Now what we're going to do is talk about the overlanding specific pieces on this, because there are a ton and they may make a difference to you. So when it comes to overlanding, again, primarily that's off-road, and you need some good off-road tires, and that's what these are. Goodyear Wrangler, which I'm surprised they put Wrangler on those. A lot of times manufacturers request that they, rebrand them, because of course Wrangler is a Jeep name, but that kind of sends you down the right road. These are mud and snow rated, so M&S 265/70 R18. They're 18-inch, really cool rims here, but we're not really looking at the tires so much. Of course, off-road tires are good. What we're looking at is the full suspension. You can see from this angle, if I zoom into the very top of the screen, this thing has a different suspension than every other Toyota Tacoma. And if I zoom in here, you're going to see the Trailhunter logo across that control arm right there. So what you have here is an entirely different suspension. We're going to flip to the back wheel where I can show you that a little bit better. Taking a look at the back wheel, you can see that ARB branded Old Man EMU. This is the sort of aftermarket components that are stock from Toyota on this model. So let's talk about the difference between this suspension and the TRD Pro, which uses, I believe, a Fox suspension. So the TRD Pro model, the other sort of fairly expensive top-of-line version, is a traditional, more North American or even traditional Tacoma type off-road system where it's more of a rock crawler, that kind of thing. This suspension was set up differently. This is basically set up to be that quicker over ruts and bumps and that kind of thing. If you're thinking about traveling and traveling with weight, that's what this is meant for. It is still a firm truck suspension, but it is softer in some ways than other suspensions because it's designed to give you comfort over very rough terrain over a very long time with weight. So when we talk about weight, we're going to talk about a rooftop tent you could put up here. We'll talk about some other things you could put on because you're going to want to go off-roading with this, and the idea of going off-roading with this is you're going completely off-grid. Now this engine also gives you some advantages, so we'll talk about that by looking at the back bed. So a couple things I love about Toyota when you look at the back here. First of all, you could just pop the button right here and lower the tailgate, but if you wanted to stand beside the truck or if your hands were loaded or something like that, you can just push it against there. It is a powered tailgate that drops. It also is a powered tailgate that raises, and that is pretty cool. So we are going to show you a feature in the bed that is engine related, but I'm going to shut this again by tapping it. It also, instead of just being soft open, it's also soft close, which is handy for just, you know, if you only had a hand free for getting stuff out. Now you'll notice there are lights up here. This is one of the overlanding features that is only available on this Trailhunter model. It's not available on the other models, and what that does is kind of light up your campsite. If you think about an overlanding vehicle that's going fully off grid, you don't want to have to carry extra lanterns, you don't want to have to carry extra stuff. So you have a lighting system here that lights up on both sides of the truck. There's two lights on the bed here, one at the front of the bed, one at the back, and the same thing mirrored on the opposite side that light up your campsite. LED lights, they use very little power, but power use isn't the biggest concern when you connect all of this power not to the 12-volt battery but through a hybrid battery. And that's sort of where this thing gets interesting, is that you have the ability to light up things for a long time. Obviously LED low power, but again, we're heading in the bed to talk about an engine feature. Let's do that right now. So the hybrid powertrain really does enable the perfect overlanding type vehicle, and it's kind of shown right here. Now Toyotas have had a plug in the back for a long time. Usually that plug is 400 amps or 400 watts, excuse me, 800 watts. This one is a 2400 watt. This is a full household plug. So if you're overlanding and you're taking your stuff with you and you just need a whole bunch of power to do normal things, whether it's running your maybe overlanding trailer, whether it's running, you know, this coffee machine that you just want to take and power up, whatever it is, that's a true household plug. And you can do that because you're using your high voltage battery that you have on this as part of the hybrid system. So that is a huge advantage. Now you also have advantages in cargo, of course. You've got the normal tie downs, you've got some up front there you can sort of see right there, you've got some up back here you can see in the D-rings right there, but you also have this rail here, rail system, where your front you know, decorative plates are mounted. But those decorative plates are more than that because you can mount those MOLLE type systems on there, M-O-L-L-E. If you know about that, then you are looking at this truck the right way, but M-O-L-L-E, if you don't know what that is, Google it. Down here you've got LED lighting in the bed as well as LED lighting outside the bed, and then you have some extra storage here. Now that storage is useful for something on the opposite side of the bed. Let me show you that right now. So on the driver's side of this bed, you have something built in that's very, very useful. This is your compressor. So the compressor itself is down here, but you can connect the hose, which was in that other compartment, right up to here. And if you want to air down your tires, which, you know, let's say, be honest, I think the front tire, when we looked at it, was a little low on this, you could actually power it up. And again, because you've got so much power on this through that hybrid system, high voltage, high capacity battery, you've got the ability to do that. So whether it's using it for your air mattress, whether it's using it, I guess for bicycles, you could probably use it, but certainly for the tires of the truck as well, you have that all built in. It's something you don't have to pack, that is built into this truck, and it's a super handy feature for if you're really going off-road. It also has a USB plug down here, two USB-C plugs, and a 12-volt plug down here. So you have ways to plug things in to the back here in addition to your sort of household style plug. All of that can be extremely useful if you're going off-grid, which is what this truck is made to do. One other thing that's nice about this particular model that I am reviewing is it is the longer bed, is the 6-foot bed for the Tacoma. So this is actually longer than some full-size trucks with a 5.5-inch or 5.5-foot bed. So you do have the ability to take everything you need. Now, one fault I see here is a lot of overlanders like to put their rooftop tent over their truck bed. I'm not sure if that would interfere. This is a longer bed, but of course you can see here that piece is removable. You also have a roof rack up top, and of course you've got the power opening window right there. Let's take a look at that roof rack up top, because I want to show you something that's, I think, unique to Canada as well when we get up there. So that last shot was fully wide angle. We're staying in that wide angle. I am at the top of the back of the, or the front of the bed, I guess you could say. So front of the bed, back of the cab here, looking at this roof rack on top. Now this is a full heavy duty roof rack. There's a couple advantages here. Obviously, you can set those bars out. You can put whatever accessories you need into there. You can take your bicycles, you can take your roof boxes, you can take whatever you want. But of course, you could also put a rooftop tent up here. If you decide to do that, this is strong enough to stand on. This is plastic parts here, but there are metal backed pieces. So there's all kinds of ways to put a ton of weight up on the top of the truck as well as in the bed, which means you can take all the stuff you need in the bed and your rooftop tent up top. Now the one piece that I believe is exclusive to Canada, I don't believe it's in the States, is this truck does have a sunroof on this model. A lot of the models here with this roof rack do not have the sunroof. I would think you would want to move those bars back or remove them completely if you're opening that regularly. It can certainly open, but I think the wind noise might be a little different, although it is protected with that front angle there. But again, it has some light in there through the sunroof, which is kind of nice. All right, back bumper, front bumper, and then we're hopping inside. So we're working our way to the back bumper, but underneath that brake light, first of all, you can see the two LED lights lighting up the bed. In the center there, you probably can't see it, is a camera system. We're gonna show you that in a second. As we come back to the rear bumper here, you do have an ARB bumper from the factory. So of course, you've got two things here below that. You've got the jack posts there, so you can lift that as well as the tow bars or grab bars, that kind of thing. In the front, there's not the same thing, but I will show you how you can connect up and make it work and why it's designed a little differently than some people think it should be. You also have, including this metal or steel bumper, you have the parking sensors. Now, most of the time when you upgrade to a steel bumper, especially if you do it aftermarket, you're not going to include the parking sensors, but you do have that here, and that is a super nice feature. So you get the strong bumper and good clearance, but you also still maintain all of the electronic functionality. So take a look at the front of the vehicle. I kind of love what they do with the logo here. They don't put the traditional Toyota logo here. They put what I am familiar with in our 1984 Toyota Camry. That was a groundbreaking vehicle for Toyota. They didn't have a logo yet, and I grew up with this on our cars. We also had a Toyota before that had that. That used to be the logo. There was no logo, it was just that font. So you have that on the front here in the matching kind of bronze gold kind of color. And then you have some lighting. I'm gonna leave it off so it doesn't drown out the camera, but this here is an LED light. That lights up white. That can be set up to go with your high beam, so you have the extra off-road light set up. You have a camera system here as well as all the mirrors. You have all four corners, we'll show you that. And then down here you have the rigid, which is again brand name LED lights. Now these ones on this particular model are white, but they can also be a more yellow amber type color, which is different again than some of the TRD. Now I did mention that you don't have the tow hooks here. Some people are saying, why aren't those tow hooks further out? Well, the reason for that is because you have a great approach angle here. So when you're going off-road, you have a great approach angle as well as having those tie down or those recovery hooks out the front there. So I believe the Americans don't have that on their model as well. We do have that here in Canada, worth pointing out. All right, let's hop inside. All right, so we're gonna go fully wide angle as we get in. So I wanna point out that side of that roof rack up there. And again, when I was talking about that MOLLE attachments here, you can see how you can do that here from the outside on that ARB piece. There is your LED lighting on the front there. All right, you got rear doors here. We'll show you that in a second, but first we're gonna hop in the front. That is less of a step and more of a rock rail. So it's really kind of inset there so it doesn't get in the way off-roading, but it does give you something to slide on if you're in there. Take a look inside here. This is what they call Softex leather. They don't even call it leather. It looks a little bit like leather, but it is an artificial leather. And it is, you'll notice here it is perforated. That is because, as we zoom into the normal level there, that is because you have heated and ventilated seats in this truck. So you do have some of the luxuries that you would expect for the price point. Over here, you got your bottle holders, lots of them. You got an extra storage up there. So all of that is very good. I'm gonna jump in here, try to keep the camera as steady as I can. I've got the key fob in my pocket. Let's shut the door here. I will point out a couple other things here. This is, you know, nice soft touch here. This is soft touch there. This is rubber, not plastic. So you have some nice materials in here. And the other thing I like is you can see they have a flat ledge here. It is really nice for me anyways, to be able to put my elbow up on the windowsill rather than down here on the armrest. That's how I like to drive. So that is a flat surface there. One thing you will see here that's going to be hard to film, so I maybe not be able to show it here. You do have the heads-up display here. So let's start up the vehicle here. We're in the fully wide angle here. The other thing you're going to notice, and I am on wide angle, so this looks small, but this is bigger than any current iPad available for sale, and it's close to you. So this is a absolutely massive screen here that you can see. I really like that. Now there's a lot of little features we can talk about. You can talk about the removable JBL speaker up there, so that can come out and become your Bluetooth speaker when you're out there. There's a lot of things I could show you in this display screen, which again might require a separate video here. We can do that in the future. But let me just throw you, when I throw this in reverse for a second, the camera systems here. There are a lot of ways to look at the camera systems. You can get different views here, but the standard view here gives you a 360 camera and the backup camera. But again, all kinds of ways to look at this kind of view. So this is kind of a fun way too. You can look around the, oops, let's go minus. I believe you can turn this around. Oh, maybe you can't. I think you can. Anyways, this is a extra views here. There's all kinds of views to look at. So you have that full 360 camera. All of this is good for when you're off-roading, especially if you don't have a spotter everywhere. You can have different types of views to look at things. Again, looking at sort of your front wheels, looking at your rear wheels, looking just behind you, looking in front of you as well. So everything you could possibly need on the trail, you can have there as well, which if we go minus here, yeah, minus and plus, so you can kind of see everything around you and that kind of thing. There's also different camera views. So that's one of the cool things. The other camera view that we don't mention here is, hey, there's me. And you can see the back window here. There's that blue car there. Back windows are small on trucks, but we can just sit there and pop this like that. And now you have a camera view. So remember that camera that was in that center brake light? That's where you're getting this view. So as long as your bed doesn't block everything that high, you actually have a pretty good view using the camera system. But if you'd prefer a mirror instead, this is also available like that. So that's helpful, especially at night, because that can help take some of the bright lights down. A lot of stuff in the dash here. I don't want you to ever pay attention to fuel mileage on a vehicle that sits at a dealership lot, simply because it's doing exactly what it's doing right now. It is idling and doing stuff with me, so that's never a good way to tell what's going on. One other thing I want to point out here, this is a specific feature to this vehicle. The auxiliary 1, 2, 3, and 4, they do nothing, but they are pre-wired. So if you want to add extra lighting or a winch or something else to this, you already have everything pre-wired, Toyota approved kind of thing, all done there. You can open, you know, you have all the traditional buttons, you can open your tailgate, that kind of thing, but you have a huge advantage of everything being pre-wired and everything's ready to go. So you can see the light bar there on the very bottom as well, fog lights, that kind of thing. You have options. Now, trying to hold it steady as I can, coming back over here, everything here, toggle switches, modes, climate, all that kind of stuff. They feel like metal to me. I would say they might be metal. And then same thing with your climate here. You've got rubber mounted on what feels like metal. Big, huge buttons here. You've got your steering wheel heater. You've got your heated seats, which I have on because it is a cold day. Ventilated seats there as well. Trailer brake controller down there. And then you have Toyota's multi-traction system. The one thing I'm a little surprised about is some of the competitors have an all-wheel drive setting. This one does not. 4 low, 4 high, 2 high. Then you have your tow haul mode, your drive modes, Toyota's multi-terrain select type system, and then the crawl mode, which is Toyota's sort of proprietary electronic mode that gets you unstuck. This thing's incredible to watch in like sandy situations. And to switch between these, you just press in and rotate, so it kind of comes through and allows you to do that in various modes there. So that is kind of cool, and I'll show you here. You've got a normal, sport, and eco, so we're going to leave it in the normal for now. And then coming down here, you also have different camera views that you can toggle, your rear locker, and your you can disconnect your front stabilizer bar on this. So all of the off-road things that you could possibly want. The other nice thing to have here, this is an actual solid grab handle. I know Hyundai does something like that with their Elantra, and it feels really chintzy. This feels solid. Over here, you've got wireless charger, 2 USB-C ports. One other thing I kind of like, that traditional Toyota logo there. It's got yellow backed here. That yellow stitching is this Trailhunter type package here. So you do have a little bit of a different color scheme inside here. Now, I will show you the back. That is one thing that is a little controversial for me. If you want to see everything in here, we can do a full interior review a little bit later. Maybe we'll grab another Tacoma to do that, but it really is quite loaded, but utilitarian. It doesn't feel like a luxury vehicle in here, but I would say it gives you all the luxury features that you could want. So very nice inside here, certainly nice from the driver's perspective. They've also changed the seating position. You're a little bit more square than you used to be in older Tacomas with your feet a little bit out, so I kind of like it. You feel nice and tall. All right. Let's check out the back seat. Here's where the controversy starts with the Toyota Tacoma. In the back here, first of all, if you have the hybrid system, you do not have underfloor storage here simply because that's where your battery is. It's nice tucked up inside. It doesn't affect, it's not hanging below the vehicle like an electric vehicle. So it is tucked up and inside. If you get the vehicle wet, it's not a big deal. You come with these rubber mats here. That's all standard. You have a grab handle right here. We are wide angle filming here. Now I'm about 6 feet tall. As a 6-footer, it's not super roomy in here. I would like more space, but it's comfortable, it's fine. It's a little bit claustrophobic compared to a full-size truck for sure. Now, one thing you do get here is, again, we mentioned that plug on the outside, that 2400 watt plug. There's the 2 USB-C ports on the side, but you also have that full household plug here on the inside. So again, that full access to full power right here on the inside as well. You've got your what do you call it, cup or holders there. You got the typical Japanese car thing where they put a pocket on the one side because that used to be used for maps. We don't have maps anymore. We've got a massive screen with navigation. So they don't put that on the driver's side. It's not the end of the world. It is what it is. Also appears to be no armrest in here. So the seats, again, they have a long base here. They're not too bad, but it is tighter than I would like it to be back here. So let's talk about who this Trailhunter version is for, excluding the fact that if you are an Overlander, you probably know how to use all this stuff. Well, let's talk about some of the features. When you have that hybrid system, you have the ability to have those full power plugs. So even if you don't get the Trailhunter, you do gain that ability to have that full power plug. Now, there are some advantages here as an Overlander. If you want a rooftop tent, you've already got a roof rack that is made to hold it. Now, of course, any regular truck, you could put it on the back here. You'd have to buy some racks, but you can do that as well. The other thing that's kind of nice here is if you decide to tow the trailer, like an overlanding type trailer behind this, you can do this independently, so you can go on the tough trails and take your trailer if you buy the right trailer. But having that full power plug also allows you to do some of the full power things you might want to do that would make camping from camping to glamping. The Old Man Emu suspension is unique here. It's not just a brand name. It really does give a unique ride character. It's going to be useful for the types of off-roading that I would like to do. It's going to be a little bit better at the higher speed stuff than the TRD Pro, in my opinion. People may disagree with me, but that's kind of where I'm seeing this suspension really having an advantage, is traveling over distance. And it is, according to Toyota, tuned to also carry the weight and still be able to be good off-road. This one with the long box obviously is going to be a little bit less, breakover angle is going to be a little bit less on this, so you're going to have a little bit less ability, and a little bit, if you're in tighter corners or tighter trails, you may have less ability that way. I would say this gives you all of the off-road stuff that almost everyone would want off-road, but also add some of the stuff that people who are off-roady type people may also want to have. Like I said, you're a rooftop tent away from being good to go on this thing, and you are just set up. I like the fact that the camera systems give you the off-road views, so it's both good for parking this thing, but it's also good for giving you that idea off-road. If you haven't always got a spotter with you, you can still go have some fun. And the camera up in the back there does solve a typical problem with trucks in this class, which is that it's tough to see outside of that back window, and having the ability to switch it to camera is a nice thing. So the new Tacoma is quite nice. The fault on it for me is the rear seat is still kind of tight, which is kind of par for the course. Even the smaller trucks have about the same types spaces here. Obviously, a full-size truck is going to give you a much larger rear seat. I would much rather drive this. I like the fact that Toyota didn't go for full fuel efficiency with their electric assist. What they've done is taken that small engine that's going to give you some fuel efficiency anyways. They've matched the turbo with the electric motor, which kind of is the perfect balance of giving you the torque you want at all times. It really is a smart design. So who is this for? If you want all the luxury features of a Lexus, or at least a lot of them, you have them in here. You just don't have that soft touch and feel of a Lexus. If you want something off-roadable, this thing is off-roadable. If you want something with Toyota reliability, this thing's gonna have it. And again, it's gonna be able to give you all the kinds of stuff that you want. You don't have to switch to snow tires. You've got the off-road ability, you've got the comfort, you can take your family, you can take your stuff, and like I said, set up that rooftop tent. You can go off-grid for weeks at a time. So there you go, there's my review of the Toyota Tacoma Trailhunter, my first Tacoma. If you want to see other Tacomas, we can do that on this channel as well. I want to thank Fredericton Toyota for giving me complete access to this entire lineup, and we'll catch you in the next one.